What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Beyond the Mats. Today I'm speaking with Sam Gaier. For people who don't know you yet, give us the quick breakdown where you train, your record, and how you try to describe your style.
I am out of Ronin Fitness in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I am a 5-1 AME nobody, and my style is jujitsu that actually works, I guess would be my description.
Awesome, cool. Well, let's just start from the beginning. Where did you grow up, and what kind of kid were you before martial arts really came into the picture?
I grew up in like the Appleton, Wisconsin area, so same state, just different area. And I was just like a dork, just a nerd into video games and like anime and stuff like that.
So, anime, you said kind of nerdy. Were you into sports at all, or was it just kind of
No,
nerdy?
not at all, actually. My parents made me try like every sport and I hated all of them. Wasn't a fan. I was like a late bloomer. I didn't really like actually like grow at all or like have my voice change till like high school. So I was like super trash at sports, like just prepubescent trying to hang. And I got into martial arts, frankly, because I was ass at sports. That was kind of the like I wanted to be able to beat up the jocks if I had to.
So when did that really take place, the martial arts? Was that around high school or a little after?
A little before actually, I got into it when I was about like I started doing karate when I was about like 15. Didn't go super far with that, frankly. It was just one of those McDojo trash karate places that have you like kick X-ray paper and show katas for belts. So it didn't really. I mean, I still kind of have a killer sidekick, but other than that, no real transfer. But they actually had I don't know if you guys, some people will remember the Gracies used to give out online blue belts. And there was an online Gracie blue belt who started teaching jujitsu at that karate gym. And so I got into jujitsu that way. And I asked some like karate black belt about a jujitsu move I'd learned. And he was like really dismissive, like, oh, I don't really do any of that ground stuff. And I was in my like 14, 15-year-old head, I was like, oh, I know this move and you don't. That means I'd like beat you in a fight. So like as naive as that was, it got me like thinking, oh, I should learn how to grapple. I'll just be able to beat up all these black belts, which is actually kind of true. So I got more into jujitsu, and when we moved halfway through high school, and I was able to train at like an actual legit gym when we did that, and started like training for real with like MMA fighters and jujitsu guys.
That's what I just saw, that one reel that you posted about that guy talking about the black belts right before I called you. So I thought,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, with Halleck Gracie, like a
Yeah.
class, like a storied jujitsu con man telling people how to run their gyms, who also like does not have a very good like jujitsu record to his name. I thought that was hilarious that he was talking shit. He that reel actually did better than his original post, and he responded to it too. So I got his ass. I ratioed him hard.
No, yeah, I just saw that on your story, so that was pretty funny to me. That was hilarious. Let's just jump into the jujitsu side of things completely here for a minute. I was kind of looking in, and I think your record is insane. It's 52-7, right? Is that
Yeah, I think that's accurate, and that's actually only counting. I'm only counting advanced matches. So like I had a bunch of matches at beginner and like intermediate, like
yeah.
blue, purple, and I mean purple's advanced unless you're a pussy and you're doing fucking intermediate at purple. But yeah, that was all in like 1 year too. I uh I got off an injury and competed like 13 times that year in like 13 different jiu-jitsu events. And so I was able to rack that up in like 365 days.
Jeez. Yeah, that's insane. I thought that was really impressive, that record. But that kind of tied into like my next question. It was about the injury. What was that? And does that still affect your mindset or how you train today?
Apparently not, because I re-injured myself with the same injury a couple of months ago.
Oh,
That's
damn.
why I haven't fought this year at all, because at the very beginning of this year, right after I got married, I took a little bit of time off super hard training. It's like a month. I was just training kind of casually, hobbyist style, and to get ready for the wedding. And then right after the wedding, I was like, all right, time to lock back in. And I went back to my like old regimen and routine, and my body just wasn't ready for it, and I popped my knee again. So I had to have that cut up and fixed. But I mean, it's always depressing when you have everyone gets nicks and dings and shit. That's just part of doing any contact sport. But like injuries that like truly have to take you off the mats, you know, your doctor tells you always to take off, but like there's hurt and there's injuries, and injuries that take you off are depressing as fuck. But um, I just shifted. I've been wanting to get into pistol shooting. Like there's competitive pistol shooting, where you just like do like fun fucking run around tactical stuff with a pistol. And so I've been kind of pouring myself into that while I've been getting back onto the mats.
That's awesome too to have something kind of other than fighting to back up kind of in case of an injury or like life after fighting, you still have a hobby to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, and I kind of look at like shooting guns as a martial art, you know what I mean? Like if you were training with a samurai sword, it'd be kind of a silly skill to have, but it'd be definitely a martial art. So like the modern version of that, right, is like a defensive pistol or a rifle. And so one, it's like you're saying, it's a sport I'll retire into when I'm done. When I'm done fighting full time, I'll fucking go beat up these jujitsu dorks for a couple of years. But then when I'm too old to hang in the adult brackets, I'll want to be like super high level at something. So you can be high level at like pistol and rifle comps when you're like an old fart. So I'll go do that.
Feel like I've never really heard that before. Like that's something not a lot of people think of or really do. Or I don't know if that's just because I'm out here in Colorado, but not a lot of people talk about shooting like competitions or stuff like
Yeah, I
that.
mean, in my opinion, like there's a lot of like gun guys in jujitsu, but they don't. A lot of guys like, I mean, you know, martial arts are fake unless you're competing. You know what I mean? Like martial arts without competition are like kung fu and aikido, and those are like fake martial arts. And that don't like aren't really effective. And it's kind of the same thing with like pistol. Like you can own a handgun and like think you're gonna fucking be Billy Badass if some shit goes down, but if you're not competing with it, you're like not really effective. You know, you're not gonna be effective.
Yeah, I agree. So back to the jujitsu, were there any like big moments or key mentors that shifted how you think about competition?
Competition, not really. Honestly, I'm trash at competition. I something we talk about in the gym a lot is transfer. And like the idea is like, let's say you have, you know, we'll make up some arbitrary number. Let's say your skill level, like a Dragon Ball Z character, you have like a level 1000. That's your power level on your mats, at your gym, you know, on a day where you feel like decently in shape, you got a good night's sleep. The nerves and your ability to like transfer that into competition, we'd call that transfer. So like I feel like on a good day, my transfer is like 60%. So if I'm like at 1,000 power level, I bring 600 power level actually into the cage or onto the mats. So I feel like that's a low ass number. Like some guys like almost get better when they compete. I think those are really rare athletes. Some guys have like 90, 80% transfer. That's fucking awesome. I feel like I could use a mentor for competition because I'm just like trash. I'm trash at actually getting my skills out there. I think I'm just so autistic and grindy in the gym that I just am able to gap people so hard that my 60% can beat people.
I've never heard it explained that way, so that's kind of cool to hear it like that. To see it from that point of view and think about it like that. I know you're really into like the ecological based training, right? I think I've seen videos like that. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
100%.
That's honestly, I've been training for like since 2023 September, and that's the only I've only ever done jujitsu the ecological way, so I don't really know anything else. What's kind of your opinion on the other way that people train and how ecological compares to that?
Yeah, so I'll roll it back a little bit. As far as mentors, I do have coaching mentors, and my biggest coaching mentor is Scott Severite, the guy who got me into like the ecological like research and stuff. Um, he's like I owe that guy a lot. He helped me out a bunch, and like one, he like talked me in and supported just like the idea of me starting my own gym and buying the gym from the guy who was running it at the time, when I was just working there. And as far to like more directly answer your question, like how the old people train, and this is not a new idea. This is something that every eco guy explains. Ecological isn't like a way to run a practice. Ecological is just the research on how humans learn to move, like how babies learn to walk, how you learn to ride a bike, how pitchers throw balls. It's just like the study of like how people learn motor skills or acquire motor skills. And so no matter how you're running a practice, you are learning things ecologically. So guys who run like a traditional practice, are just refusing to understand how people actually learn. Guys who like say eco is dumb or whatever. Some guys have like good arguments, like, oh, we already do stuff that like falls into the eco. It's like, yeah, you definitely do, because otherwise no one would have learned anything ever. It's just, to me, it's like a lot of it's arrogance, and I think there's a ton of like ego in martial arts. Martial arts guys love to pretend there's no ego because a brand new guy gets his ego smashed, and then 6 months in, when you can smash the brand new guy, your ego is now double what it was before. There's like a ton of ego in martial arts, and those guys don't like to admit that they've been charging memberships and running practices and sending people into jujitsu matches or cage fights, and they're like borderline negligent in the amount of information they know about coaching. Like when I use basic terms from like sports science literature and stuff, like coaches are like, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, oh, you probably shouldn't run a gym then if you don't, and that was me too. I like ran practices before I knew.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of ego in the traditional approach, and being like, well, some fucking guy who got his belt from a guy who got his belt from a guy who got his belt from a Gracie showed me that I'm running a practice like him, so obviously that's right. And like, kind of in my opinion, if you're running the same practice, if you're running the practice structure the same as they did 100 years ago, you're retarded, because like obviously stuff has gotten better. To like bring it to the pistol thing, if you're running a pistol that they ran 100 years ago, you'd be dumb. If you're
Yeah.
doing jujitsu moves from 100 years ago, you're retarded. And if you're running your practice the same way they did, and frankly, back in the day, they didn't run practice like this. This was a commercialization. They stole the practice structure from commercialized karate, because the Gracies famously weren't about making the martial art good. They were about making it a business. That was like their goal. And so like guys run a business based practice structure and then try and tell guys who are like trying to get in the weeds and do the research on how to run a good practice, they call them like dumb. And I'm like, okay, well, you're kind of a scam artist. But I guess that's my very long-winded take on people who are kind of anti-eco.
Like I said, I've never really trained anything other than eco, so I'm not really, that's all I really know is the live drilling, live scenario kind of stuff.
I mean, every gym does that, and every gym
Yeah.
knows, like, if you talk to those track guys, they're like, oh, what makes us different than, traditional martial arts is the realism of it, is the going live of it. And it's like, okay, well, you're almost there.
Yeah.
That's the part that actually builds the skill. My challenge to like no resistance drilling guys are like, okay, give me one guy who no resistance drills exclusively, and give me one guy who, like, with absolutely no guidance, literally just rolls, who's going to be better after a year. Obviously the rolling guy. So like, we know for a fact the live training is effective. Like, in my opinion, that test kind of, obviously it's just a theoretical test, but it proves that the no resistance drilling does not build skill, and the live drilling does build skill.
No, I feel like I totally agree with that in that way. So you've obviously found a lot of success in jujitsu. What made you really want to decide to make the leap into MMA?
Honestly, I always wanted to do martial arts for like fucking nerd dork reasons of like, I just want to be like a badass dude, because I was like a skinny little nerd. So I really only did jujitsu because I was under the impression that it was the best martial art. Because you hear like, oh yeah, 95% of fights go to the ground, which is like a fake statistic, but and it is true that like, if one guy can grapple and one guy can't, odds are the grappler is going to win the fight, because you can make grappling happen, but you can't make striking happen if you can't grapple and someone's trying to make grappling happen, right? So, and we've seen that like borne out at the highest levels. Like the guy who decides the whether the fight is going to be on the ground or on the feet tends to win MMA fights, whether that's a guy who has really good wrestling defense or whether it's a guy with really good wrestling offense, or grappling defense or grappling offense. So I always wanted to just like do martial arts. I wanted to do the most effective martial arts, and that's obviously MMA. It's like non-debatable. So jujitsu was just the thing I happened to get into first. And it's also like the barrier for competition is much lower, right? You can compete like every week if you want, frankly. You can, you're not taking a bunch of damage as long as you're tapping early and you're not taking like really high impact takedowns. And when I came off an injury, that kind of shifted my mindset of like, all right, you don't have forever to compete. You have to like, I was like, in my early, coming up on my mid 20s when I got injured. And so I was like coming into my mid 20s after my first big injury. and was like, okay, well, you're almost halfway through your 20s, you got to like move. So I decided I was going to do a year of jujitsu to just get me ready to fight, to work on that transfer that we talked about, get me ready to compete. And after that year, I'd fight. And so that was kind of what made me take the leap, is that was always the goal. The jujitsu was just like there's really no like feeder MMA, like amateur MMA. It's kind of already assumed you have some skills built. So like jujitsu is going to be my base sport.
Since jujitsu was your base sport, was striking a big adjustment, or was like what was the hardest part of that transition?
It was I had been striking for almost, I mean, I started with karate. Obviously, that's kind of like not real striking training if you're not at like a competitive contact karate gym.
Yeah,
It was mostly just fake, like forms and stuff. But I had like, to put it in eco terms, I had tasks. I had a sidekick, and a task would be, oh, in a fight, land a sidekick, or in a fight, land a cross, or whatever. You know what I mean? I didn't really have any skill at it. But as soon as I went to college, I was training at an MMA gym, and I started just training at a jiu-jitsu club on campus as well. But eventually, I ended up running that with a good buddy of mine, and so I was training striking that whole time. So it's definitely like my grappling is way better than my striking. Um, but it wasn't too much of an adjustment because I mean I've been doing it. I've been striking for, I mean, probably almost 10 years now.
yeah. I feel like that's one of the hardest parts. Like a straight only jujitsu guy trying to make the leap over into MMA has the hardest with is the striking or like the boxing, just getting used to that, or just being
Yeah.
hit. Like doing jujitsu while being able to be hit and doing jujitsu with normal rules is so different. I feel like
So I have a take on that. I don't think the fundamentals change at all whether there's strikes or not. I think jujitsu guys just have really trash fundamentals because they don't get hit. Like
that
you
makes
see a
sense
lot of
too. Yeah.
you see a lot of jujitsu guys like sitting guard, pulling guard, and they make it work because they have really dangerous guards and they're really good at the guard. But the guard's like fundamentally a defensive position, right? And if you were taking damage the whole time, you would have a lot more urgency to get something effective done with that guard. Uh, like something I teach my MMA guys, like when they're escaping from bottom, like you shouldn't be doing anything different for your escapes. You should still be framing. You should still be building your hip height, your head height. You should still be trying to get your base under you or make better guard connections. You just have to do it faster because the longer it takes you, theoretically, the more you're going to get hit.
Just the more you're exposed, like
Yeah, you just have to grapple. I mean, the pace is really the only
yeah,
big difference. The
that
pace
makes
and the
sense.
consequence, but your fundamental goals don't really change if you have fundamentally correct jujitsu, which frankly, I think even a lot of high level guys don't understand the fundamentals of jujitsu.
That makes sense. So I know you said a little bit about your injury this year, and that's why you haven't fought yet. But what are kind of your next steps in your MMA career, or any goals you have locked in?
So probably this year, I'm probably going to be out from competition for the full calendar year. I'll probably get back into it early next year. I haven't decided if I'm going to take I'll take probably some warm up jujitsu matches, maybe a kickboxing match, maybe one more amateur MMA match. But next year I'll be going pro and I'll be trying to stay really, really active. Because I'll turn 30 early next year. And so, the hard cap on professional MMA is like 35, right? So I'm gonna have like 5 years to make a good run. So I wanna have some really impressive wins, stay really active in the next 2 years. So at 32, I'm looking at like a record of 7-0 against tough guys, 6-0 against tough guys, so I can start taking a look at some of these bigger organizations.
That's solid, and I totally hope that injury heals up good for you, and that's a good plan. It sounds like just taking the rest of the year off. Have you ever gotten like a good piece of advice before stepping into the cage, or anything that stands out that a coach might have said to you?
So I don't know. I don't know if I have a great answer for that. Maybe I'll find one when I explain the first part, but I haven't for a long time. I really haven't had a coach. In college, I had a coach, but he was an MMA coach, not really a jiu-jitsu coach. And I was more competing in jiu-jitsu. I had one fight in 2017, but other than that, I was just doing jiu-jitsu. All my other fights were last year. Um, and uh, uh, really, I can't think of anything recently, any like good solid piece of advice um that I've been given. The advice I've been trying to give, so I run a small fight team in a decent sized little jujitsu gym. The Some of the advice I've been trying to give my fighters a little bit is to like cowboy up, meaning like like I think there's this perspective because people who are getting into MMA nowadays are like fans of professional MMA, and they see these 20-pound weight cuts, and they see guys like, yeah, I'm only gonna fight with an 8-week camp and this and that, and uh I think they are missing the point a little bit. A lot of guys, a lot of the amateurs I meet are missing the point of being an amateur. The point of being an amateur is to build experience and increase that transfer we talked about. So like for example, one of my fighters, Trey White, there was an opportunity. He has a fight booked in a little over a month, and there's an opportunity for him to fight this Saturday against like a very reasonable matchup, great experience, good organization. And I was like, should probably just cowboy up and do it because worst case scenario, you lose and you have more experience on your record. Best case scenario is you did some Chad shit and fucking picked up a match, smoked a guy, fought a month later, smoked another guy, and how awesome is that going to be for your development? And so that's, I guess, I haven't gotten any advice. My advice to amateur fighters, not necessarily don't take it seriously, right? But remember, amateur is amateur. It's about development. It's about experience. Don't take fights where you're just getting fed to fucking, college wrestlers if you just started training 2 years ago. But try and be really active. Don't try and be this guy who thinks they're a pro and cares, like, is overly caring about their record at amateur. Even though I care about my record at amateur, it's hard not to do. You got to cowboy up a little bit and just like get out there and like be a fighter. When you're a pro, you can worry about really being picky about matchmaking and worry about your career. But I mean, I challenge anyone to name any UFC fighter's amateur record. You don't know what it is because it doesn't matter once you go pro.
That's something I've never really thought of that I feel like a lot of amateur fighters might find really helpful. Like I feel like that's a really good piece of advice for them.
And you definitely want to take it like seriously. Like you want to be training 6 7 days a week, and you want to have
Yeah.
your diet locked in, and you can't be missing weight because you're building relationships with promoters as an amateur. Like your first pro show is going to be probably the same promoter that gave you your first 5 amateur fights. You know what I mean? So like you want to be professional, but you got to also remember it's not professional. You're not getting paid. It's costing you money to do this unless you're a stud on ticket sales and selling sponsorships. So you need to remember, like, this is about the experience. So take a lot of fights. Be careful. Don't take fights where you're gonna like I said, you want to, take those fights that are very reasonable, that make sense on paper. But you're not a pro. And like a big thing, like when and if you take a loss, most likely when, it's not like this thing that should like defeat you. Like if you're not losing at amateur ever, you're probably just fighting cans. You know what I mean? Same thing with pro. Like there's an obsession with like an undefeated guy. Undefeated guys are either, the best 2 3 guys in history, which you're not, or they're fighting cans. You know what I mean? Like that's those are the only things. You're either 3 dudes or you fight cans if you're undefeated. So like fucking don't worry, don't let losses kill you. Just fucking keep moving forward.
Awesome. Well, we'll end it on that one. Thank you so much for your time, Sam. It's been awesome having you on. I feel like this was a great conversation that a lot of people can take and learn from. I'll kind of give you a second to shout out anything that you want or just say whatever you want.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, I thanks for having me. Hope I wasn't too like rambly and too talking, but I mean, I guess that's what a podcast is for. And yeah, shout outs would be keep an eye out, roninfitness.net. You can buy kimonophobic merch. If you think the gi is gay and retarded, I have a brand called kimonophobic, and it's basically like just it's rash guards that you can wear that says like trash the gi and stuff. Fun, especially if you have like kind of a coach who's chill enough that'll let you wear it, but also a little likes the gi and is a little bit of a boomer. You can rile them up. And then if you're a fighter really anywhere near Eau Claire, Wisconsin, we are like the best gym within like 2, 3 hours by like kind of a lot. So if you want to be fighting or doing jujitsu, we kind of are the answer in this, like, frankly, half of the state. So hit us up. Um, and then what else do we have? Oh yeah, follow my Instagram, SamGaier. It's just my full name. Trying to pump that up quite a bit recently just to because fighters and jiu-jitsu guys don't make any money. So the more revenue, more eyes you have on you, the more opportunities for business you have, and so I'm always looking out for opportunities like that. So go follow me on Instagram and follow me talk shit and shoot guns and strangle people.
Cool. Awesome. I really appreciate your time, man. This was awesome. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks for having me on, brother.
If you enjoyed this episode of Beyond the Mats, follow, leave a review, and check out some of our previous episodes, and keep an eye out for new episodes coming out weekly.